Well, good afternoon, everyone. Hold on a second, had a hair emergency. Hey, it's Barb, and I want to welcome you to this new episode of the Better Together Facebook Live show. I love hosting this weekly Facebook Live show. I've been out for a few weeks on the road traveling, but today I am excited to bring an episode to you that it really affects so many families. Today's topic is about stepmom success. And so if you are a second mom, a bonus mom in a blended family, this episode is for you. If you are a bio mom who is looking at having a stepmom, or there's a bonus mom in your kids' lives, this episode is for you. And if you are someone who you love a woman who is a bonus mom, or you've got a friend who's a bio mom who's trying to figure out how to have the best relationship, I hope that is everyone else, that this episode is for all of us. And so I'm going to introduce our guest today in just a bit. I want to say hello and welcome. If you are just joining me for today, every single week we love introducing an icebreaker question, and so I'll introduce that in just a moment. But I wanted to let you know that this Thursday, June 10th, I actually have a fun online event with some friends of mine. And this is through my publisher, this event, and we call it the 3C event. And this is all about friendship. My friend Amberly Niece, who you see, the gorgeous gal with the curly hair on the left, Amberly is going to be the host, and we're going to talk about how to live at peace and how to have better friendships. It'll be this Thursday on Facebook Live. I will be broadcasting it on my author page at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern Daylight Time. And Amberly and I will also be joined by my other friend, Julie Lyles Carr. You guys, these ladies and I, you know what? A lot's going to happen, and most of it is going to probably be a little on the cray-cray side. So we would love for you to join us for some straight up fun, as well as some resources on how is it that we can have better friendships as women. And so please mark your calendar and join us for this Thursday, June 10th at 7 p.m. Speaking of relationships, that is what today's episode is all about, particularly with blended family relationships. Today, I want to start with an icebreaker. And that icebreaker, as we were planning the topic, I was thinking about some of our favorite movies. And so what's your favorite blended television show, family, or movie? And we've got some options there for you. Is it A, Cheaper by the Dozen, B, The Brady Bunch, I mean, come on, C, Daddy's Home, which I liked a lot, D, Full House, or E, Modern Family? Go ahead and leave in the comments whether you're watching live or on the replay. Go ahead and drop your answer into the comments of which of those is your favorite blended family or family TV show or movie. And feel free to, if you're dropping in a comment, go ahead and say hello so I know you're out there. We love it when our audience interacts with us because we want this show to be a conversation. So whatever your answer is, we will pop it up later. There are a number of you who are joining me on my regular Facebook page, not necessarily my author page. And so I want to say, hey, so glad you're with us. For right now, though, I want to introduce the guest that we have today as we're talking about stepmom success. So please let me introduce to you Cheryl Shumake. And Cheryl is a certified master life coach. Woo! She is a step family educator and currently pursuing a postgraduate certification as a family life educator through the National Council for Family Relations. She's a busy woman. In 2020, during the beginning stages of the pandemic, Cheryl founded Stepmom Sanity, a Christ-centered sister circle of support. Doesn't that sound so good? This provides hope and help for stepmoms who are there, wherever there is, from stepmoms who have been in the bad there to the okay to the good there. And Cheryl is a Bible study teacher, speaker, and author. Mom, she's also a mom of one, a bonus mom of three. She's the wife of Jonathan, who is her willing guinea pig for most things. That's so fun. Cheryl loves adventure, but when you ask about her greatest adventure, she'll tell you that I know that I love the Lord and get to love and point others to him. Cheryl and her husband, who was a guest at her first wedding in 1987, make their home in Michigan and are frequently invaded by people looking for food and hugs. So would you please welcome to the Better Together Facebook Live, my friend and author, Cheryl Shumake.
Hi, Barb. How are you?
I am doing well. I love your description that you're the mom of one and the bonus mom of three. That is beautiful. I
Yes.
love that.
So do I. I love living this life. I really do.
Wonderful. Well, today we're going to talk about stepmom strategies for success. And our icebreaker question, I'm going to have you answer it. We've got our icebreaker question there for the audience. What is your favorite blended family TV or movie? And so, audience, you can still answer, jump in. A, Cheaper by the Dozen. B, Brady Bunch. C, Daddy's Home. D, Full House. E, Modern Family. Vicki Heath, she says that she loves Cheaper by the Dozen. Vicki is a friend of mine from Edisto Island. I'm actually going to be hanging out at her house next month on vacation.
Oh, fun.
But she loves Cheaper by the Dozen. Vicki, I'm sorry, Cheryl, how about you? What's your favorite show?
Well, I will tell you, like, Daddy's Home is probably the most realistic of the ones that are up there. But my favorite one actually isn't listed. It is His, Hers, and Ours. It's a movie with Lucille Ball, Bob Hope, and I think they end up with like 18 kids or something like that between the two. It's a hilarious movie, and also it's fun. It's realistic. Gets your mind off of a blended family dynamics in a good way.
You know what? Thank you. That was the movie I was trying. Tabitha and I, as we were planning the show, we were trying to figure out different movies. And so I didn't see the original version, but I do remember the updated version with Dennis Quaid.
Yes,
And I
yes.
can't remember who the co-host was, but yeah, they had like 3,000 zip codes worth of children.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. It's a funny movie. I love it. That's my favorite. So
Yes,
for those of you who are listening, if you haven't seen it, go rent it. You will enjoy it.
love it. And you said Daddy's Home feels a lot like yours.
Well, no, not like mine, but it does.
Oh,
Thank God, not anymore.
yeah, that one I watched. I think I saw the first one. I saw both of them. Those are pretty good. Well, step family movies and television shows, they pick up on a lot of the tension and a lot of the ups and downs that can come from blended families. And so, Cheryl, today you and I are going to talk about some specific success strategies for moms who are bonus moms out there, or maybe a bio mom who is trying to figure out how just to put herself in the shoes of a stepmom, or if you're like Vicki Heath, who is now a bonus Grammy to 4 grandkids, which is amazing, and to really care about the stepmom. So Cheryl, would you start off by just telling us just a little bit of your story as to how you decided that this was a place where God wanted you to serve?
Right. Well, when I first became a bonus mom, I was looking for a community. There were resources out there, but what I could not find was a Christ centered community. And I sorely needed one, a place where I could unload and someone who would understand and empathize. And eventually I said, well, I'm going to go get some training. I'm going to, because I wanted to be a blessing to my family. I wanted to be the best bonus mom I could be. So I went and got training. And of course, that training wasn't just for me. So eventually the Lord tapped me on the shoulder and said, I want you to be the answer to the prayer you prayed. Be a resource, create a community, a spot where stepmoms can come and they can lay down their issues and get up with encouragement, empowered to do what I've called them to do. And that's how Stepmom Sanity was born.
I love it. And I love the title Stepmom Sanity. kind of unpack that title for us. Why do we, what is the sanity part of the situation that many people don't understand?
Well, you know, step families are just rife with interesting, I'll say interesting dynamics, family dynamics, and you have a lot of just pressure that's intrinsic to being in a bonus family, from within the family, everything from conflict of loyalties to your friend who's listening who is a grandma to a bonus grandma to four. You have extended family issues. There are just a lot of issues that come, and it's almost like walking on an emotional minefield, and it can
Mm.
drive you crazy. It absolutely can if you are not anchored to truth. So stepmom sanity is all about anchoring stepmoms to truth so that they can walk in grace, they can love their family, they can deal with the difficulties without losing their marriage, their mind, their resolve, their poise.
So, Cheryl, then would I be wrong in saying that there were some times when you felt like, as a stepmom, you were going to lose your sanity?
Absolutely.
Is there one time that kind of stands out to you where you were like, you know what? I think I'm going to need something more than what I have to deal with this.
You know, I actually tell the story of a time I ran away from home. I ran away at 41 years of age, right? You know, we maintained two homes when my husband and I first were married so that my daughter could finish high school in the community that she grew up in. And there was one weekend where it was just a little bit too much step family tension going on, Barb. And I tell you, I was like, I'm out. I can't. I wasn't leaving the marriage. There was no threat of that at all. I just needed space so that I could recalibrate. And I drove 61 miles to the other house. And it was actually, I think my husband, he sliced open his finger. And I felt so bad for being away from him. He was doing some repairs in the home that I turned around and came back. That's what brought me back. But oh yeah, honey, there have been many times when I needed sanity and I needed respite, and sometimes when I couldn't find it, and sometimes when I said I'm going to take it, like when I ran away. So
Well, so in today's conversation, we have put together just some big ideas of three things that you're going to address today. You recently came out with a book titled "Waiting to Be Wanted," and we're going to put a link in the comments for anyone who wants to find this book. Because Cheryl, you said for you, there was a lot of struggle that you had to encounter in becoming a bonus mom. And so when I read the back of it, it reads, stunned speechless by isolation, struggling with the middle, ashamed by the battle in your heart to love your bonus children. We get it. Sometimes the huge chasm between what you expected and what you experience feels impossible to cross. Be encouraged. God delights in plucking us out of the wastelands in between. Woo, that feels deep, Cheryl. Was it really that deep?
it really was that deep, you know, because you stand at the altar, everyone does. There's a saying that bonus families are created or formed on loss, and that is not true. They are formed on hope. They are often created because of loss, right? But
Mm.
they are formed on hope. And so you stand at the altar hoping for the best. The children that you have enjoyed while you and your now husband were dating, you anticipate that that is going to remain the same dynamic that you enjoy in your family, and it does not. It absolutely changes. And so what you experience, this new life, is vastly different from your expectation, and it can throw you off center in the middle. But God meets us there. He meets us in the waiting, and while we are there, he teaches us to love children who act out of hurt without absorbing the pain of their hurtful actions.
Beautifully put. And so now we're going to drill down and look at this practically, particularly some principles that you want to share with any bonus mom today who is really just going, oh, this feels so hard. And so we're going to go through some of these principles somewhat quickly. But I want to encourage you, if you're listening today, my guest is Cheryl Shumake, and she is the author of Waiting to Be Loved. We've got a link in the comments. There's also a companion workbook that goes along with it. And so if you are a bonus mom and it has just been a hard in between space, today's episode is an encouragement to you, but we also want you to be equipped. So Cheryl, number one, you talk about how stepmoms, they were built to withstand the turbulence of the lives they're living. This is such a powerful word for particularly the mom who's like, I don't know if I can deal with this.
Mhm,
What does
mhm.
this mean?
Well, practically speaking, if God is sovereign, and he is, and he orders our steps, and he does, and he knew a decision was going to be made to marry a man who had children from a previous relationship, and of course he knew, then he let you there, and he's with you there. And everything in your life has created exactly what is needed for that family. You are there. Your role is to be a conduit of God's blessing and his love to the children and to the man that you are now in covenant with. You were made for it. So the difficulties that you sustained up until that point has created resilience in you that allows you to withstand the difficulties in your home, because it's going to be difficult at times. It's wonderful. The other side of the difficulties is absolutely awesome, and you have moments of awesomeness in between, but it is going to be difficult, and there are going to be many times where you're going to want to cut and run. I encourage you to not do it. God equips us where he plants us, and he has planted you in your family. That is what that means.
And I love that hope there, that it is that the scriptures, particularly New Testament, talk about how God gives us everything that we need for godly living. And so a woman who finds herself in that situation where the kids tell us whatever you can tell us, but when you were trying to build relationships with your bonus kids, what was the hardest part for you?
Well, the hardest part was coming to terms with the fact that these children love their mom, which is a good thing, and that was going to cause some conflict in their relationship with me. No matter how wonderful I may or may not be, it's going to cause some conflict. So I needed to develop empathy very quickly for the position that they were in, and for the position that their mom was in as well. She didn't choose me. She didn't know me, and now she's being expected to hand over her children to me without, so much as a, how do you do? That's a hard pill for a lot of women to swallow. And being on the other side of that myself, I was able to empathize with her and with the children as well. I had to come to that very quickly. It was quite a struggle, if I'm going to be honest. But in the middle of it, I really encourage stepmoms to bathe their parenting with prayer. And in the middle of it, I bathe every decision with prayer and found God's wisdom as I listened. I didn't always follow, I'll be honest, but he amply supplied his wisdom as he promised to do.
And the next point, I believe, is it takes a very practical step towards following through on God's wisdom, because your second point, well, we're going to talk about shark bait before we get to the second point. Well, let's do that. Number two, sorry, Tabitha. Number two is that God will teach us, a bonus mom, how to love hurting children who are traumatized by divorce. Uh, how did that play out for you? How did you learn how to love your kids well where they were at?
Well, I learned by starts and fits is how I learned. I remember one time in particular, I had a difficult interaction with a bonus child and was going to talk to her. We were going to have a talking to, because I believe in open communication, and I was disrespected and I'm in the right. And as I was making my way to her room, the Holy Spirit impressed upon my heart, I want you to approach with humility. And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm the adult. And, and the Lord, I want you to approach with humility, because that is how Christ approaches us. He humbled himself and he became a servant and became obedient even to death on the cross. He loved us when we were hurting children, traumatized by sin, and we were his enemies. And he kept re-emphasizing that point to me. I loved you while you were my enemy. These children are not your enemy, and I want you to love them like I have loved you. And it was not all, again, I do not want to sit here and say this was so easy, but God, the Spirit of the living God empowered me to be able to do the parts that weren't easy. His grace is just available to us to do in and through us what we can't do on our own.
And I love the emphasis on humility because that really takes a lot of spirit enabled strength, especially when kids are saying things that are hurtful that really aren't about the bonus mom. And it's hard not to take that personally, and to be humble, because you could have barnstormed in and commanded respect and commanded a behavior change, but those kids were acting out of hurt.
They were acting out of hurt. And you have to, every day you have to make a decision, not just in blended families, but in everyday life. Am I going to be right, or am I going to be effective? And I had to make a decision. I wanted to be effective in my family. And that meant that I was not going to, I was going to have to swallow my pride, if you want to say it like that. Be thick skinned and keep a tender heart. That's the way I put it.
And speaking of that, on the thick skin, because there are a number of dicey, difficult, even destructive situations that stepmoms can find themselves in, depending on the circumstances of the divorce and the remarriage. And so in your book, Waiting to Be Loved, if you're watching today, my guest is Cheryl Shumake. There's a link in the comments. Cheryl, you talk, it's specifically in a chapter called Shark Bait. You talk about 5 actions to guard against offense. First of all, what's shark bait?
Well, shark bait is the analogy that I use to talk about the bait that the enemy uses, which is offense. It's like chumming the water, and it draws predators in, like self-pity and unforgiveness and bitterness, and it sets up division so well. Offense is such a strategic device that the enemy uses to destroy families, to destroy nations, really. How many wars have been started because of offense, right? So shark bait is offense. And just like bait, it draws.
It does draw. And for stepmoms, there's definitely some defensiveness that can set up. What are some of the common places where a stepmom might feel insecure, therefore vulnerable to offense?
To offense, certainly. Well, she's definitely going to feel almost like an also ran in the marriage. She knows that she's first place with husband, but she will often feel as if she's in second place because he has children with another woman. If she doesn't have children with him, that's another place of vulnerability. Is this woman more significant in his life because she was able to give him children and I could not? There are a lot of bonus moms who struggle with infertility, and that's a real conversation that we have to have. She may feel insecure in her parenting style, especially if bio mom is policing her parenting. Am I a good enough parent? She may feel offended because bio mom has a lot of say in her home, and she rightly expects to hold this territory, if you will. It is her home, but when you have children in the home that are not biologically yours, it can feel as if the other person has a lot of control about what goes on in your home. There can be offense with the finances because of child support or spousal support. There can be offense because you don't understand the relationship between bio mom and bio dad. Maybe it feels a little too close for you and you're uncomfortable. There's ample opportunity for offense in blended families.
You know what? I feel like as you went down that list, what my hope and prayer is that there's a bonus mom, a stepmom out there who's listening, that she feels really seen in the best of all ways and just going, yes, that's the problem in our house. That's the problem at our house. That's the problem. But you still, we can't control the actions of other people, but we can control how we respond to our circumstances.
Absolutely.
And so in your book, you talk about Proverbs chapter 26, verse 21. And it says, just as charcoal and wood keep a fire going, a quarrelsome person can keep an argument going. So, what is it that you want to coach a single mom about letting go of offense and about recognizing those vulnerable areas that could keep her fired up? What's at risk for her, and how should she handle it?
Absolutely. The first thing is she needs to know that she does have vulnerable areas. So she needs to invite somebody into her life because we all have blind spots. We can't see ourselves. So we need other people to be able to locate us. And we want to be vulnerable to that person. And I will say this, Max Lucado has a quote that I absolutely love. He says, conflict is inevitable, but combat is a choice. We do not have to choose to fight. As a matter of fact, it is in our best interest to not. You lay your marriage at stake when you engage biomom in combat. There's so much emphasis to outside of your home. You're not paying attention to things that are going on inside of your home. Your own heart is laid bare and shredded. Your children are torn between the homes. There's just too much at stake for us to allow offense to build. We have to deal with it quickly, not to mention, again, unforgiveness. The Bible tells us, the Father says, if Jesus said, if you don't forgive others, my Father can't forgive you. Is that the life you want to live, to say I am a Christian but be trapped in bondage by offense? That's not the life. And so we do talk about that in the book, and we do give strategies for guarding against offense and also recovering offense. And some of those strategies are, listen, to know your broken places, know the places that you are triggered in, and get some help. I believe in therapy. Some people say just pray. I say pray, and sometimes the answer is go to therapy. So go see someone to help you locate where you're broken, and can help you heal in those particular areas. Another place is, look, stop the fighting. Just stop fighting, but erect and maintain some healthy boundaries. It's not always easy to do, but you just healthy boundaries helps you honor the other person while acting in a way that commands honor, not demands it, but commands honor as well. And you can politely say, no, that's too far. The other thing, we talk often about going to our brother and sister if we know that they have aught against us. But Jesus tells us in Luke to, if our brother has offended us, to go to them, but to go to them with the hope for reconciliation in mind. We're not going to win an argument. We're going to say, this is an issue. It is causing a rift between us, and I would like to see restoration come so that we can continue on in relationship, whatever that relationship looks like. We also talk about in here, managing your expectations. That is such an important skill to employ and to develop in, is to have expectations that meet your reality, because a lot of times offense comes because we were expecting a certain behavior and we didn't get it. So
That's
we
right.
need to manage our expectation. And lastly, I would say to that stepmom is to determine beforehand to avoid the boxing ring. One of the things that I did was develop some very neutral responses to issues so that I could respond and hear the person, but also take any personal affront off the table. So I started being very neutral, even taking time to respond and saying, I need some time to respond to that. So give me a moment. And I would step away from the conversation. Or I would say, I am sorry that you interpreted my behavior that way. I hope that your perception of me will change in the future. So just some very neutral responses that you will not take ownership of anybody else's issue, but you will engage in a way that will keep you free from offense.
That's all so good. If you loved Cheryl's, just what she shared, this is from her new book called Waiting to Be Loved. There's a link in the comments. And Cheryl, as we wrap up today's show, and you've talked about the stepmom success strategies, and really just the nitty gritty of how hard it can be, but the hope that stepmoms can have in learning how to love their kids and live at peace with their bio moms. You've got some great resources at stepmomsanity.com. Can you tell us about some of the freebie resources that you have?
Sure. We have 5 freebie resources. We have some right now. We're developing more. We have some affirmations for stepmoms that you can use. It's all scripture based. I do believe in affirmations, but I believe affirmations that are not anchored in truth, just fluff. So you want some affirmations that are anchored in truth. Everything is scripture based, that you can pray, that you can speak into your hearing, that you can stand on. We also have 4 freebies for bio moms who are struggling in their relationships with stepmoms, and stepmoms who are struggling in their relationship with bio moms. And then for bio moms who feel they might be a little high conflict, we have some for you as well as stepmoms, because it's not always her, honey. Sometimes it's you. Sometimes you're just triggered in a place
I
of
love it. Sometimes it's
vulnerability.
not her.
It's not
Sometimes it's
always
you.
her.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's you. So we have all of the resources available for anyone who wants to go over and get some help.
I love that. And so I want to wrap up today's show, Cheryl, with the very last point that we have as we're talking about stepmom strategies. And number 3 is, you say that we can be strong and courageous. The fruit is out on the limb. And so very quickly, talk to the stepmom who's out there about this last point.
Absolutely. Listen, I know it feels very scary sometimes to put yourself out there, but we want to encourage you to just reach a little further, go a little further in your relationship with your bonus child, because the fruit is coming. I have seen the fruit bear out in my own life in marvelous relationship with my bonus children. But let me say this, that is not the fruit that you're reaching for. Even that is low hanging fruit. The fruit that you really are reaching for is the well done. So that is why you need to be strong and why you need to be courageous, because one day you're going to stand before the Lord and you're going to have to give an account for how you executed the role he gave you to execute in your bonus children's lives. And you want to hear him say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." That's the fruit that you're reaching for.
I love it that the fruit isn't about the kind of relationship that you have with your stepchild, because you don't have control over how they respond, and the joy and the peace, you don't want that to be tied to the outcome of the relationship. But yet, that when we as stepmoms, when you stand faithful to what God has called you to do, the well done that he wants you to keep your eye on, that's where the blessing lies. So today I want to
Absolutely.
say thank you to my guest, Cheryl Shumake, who is the author of Waiting to Be Loved. You can find out more about Cheryl at stepmomsanity.com. Cheryl, thank you so much for
Thank
everything that you've shared
you.
with us.
Oh, thank you. It's been a blast being here. Thank you so very much for having me.
I love it. Well, everyone, I want to say thank you for joining us, whether you're watching live or most of you who are going to watch on the replay. This episode is something we believe is such a powerful resource. So if you've got some stepmoms in your life or even bonus moms, would you share this episode with them, please? We want to make sure that we can share hope and truth with those who need it. And every Tuesday this summer, we are here at the Better Together Facebook Live on Tuesdays at 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. And this summer, we would love for you to stop by and join us. You can watch the past episodes of Better Together at barbruce.com on the blog page. And so until next week, everyone, have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.